So I believe I was talking about there's a situation that had happened where there's a couple in our church early on in the ministry, and there's a young couple, but they're a lot of local people that really struggle with their tempers, and so this couple was really they're having a major confrontation. The landlord had called me up to go over there and try to resolve it because he knew they came to our church and they're trying to get their life in order. And so he was, when I walked into the house, he was on top of his wife, just, I mean, slapping her and hitting her. She's screaming. And his sister was was right there, and the sister's boyfriend, but they weren't intervening or anything. So I came in there and I was upset. My first reaction was just wanting to grab him and just hit him because of what I was seeing. But I know that we as pastors are not supposed to be brawlers. So I stopped myself and I was thinking what I was gonna do. And I remember the incident, someone telling me when Lester Roloff had a situation in one of the homes, and he had to spank one of the women in the homes. He said he had to spank her because of what was going on. So it just came to my mind. So I told this person, "You're gonna get a spanking for what you did." And he said, I ain't getting no spanking." I said, "Well, I saw what you did. I'm gonna call the police, and then you're gonna end up going to jail at least 24 hours, and maybe even over the weekend. So up to you, either that or the spanking." And he said, "I'll take the spanking." So I walked around. Well, I told everybody to leave the house or leave the room, or to go outside. And then I walked around and I found hard oak flooring planks, about that long. So I grabbed one of them and I got into the house and I told him to get on the bed. Now, this is not something I recommend. It just, in this situation, the time, just the timing of it was the best way I thought to resolve it. So I told him to get on the bed, to put his hands on the bed, to bend over, and put his pants down to where he only had his boxer underwear. And I asked his wife, "How many times did he slap you, or did he hit you?" She said, 10 times. So I said, "You're getting 10 spankings." And so I was upset too, so as hard as I could, I hit him. And the first one, he was crying. And I spanked him like 5 times. Well, I didn't have the strength to do anymore. And so I said, "That's good for now." And that night was Wednesday. They came to church. He couldn't sit down. It was all bruised up, even bleeding, I think, a little bit. It was bad. But after church that night, he came to me and he said, "Pastor, you only gave me 5. I need 5 more." I said, "I think you learned your lesson." So I asked his wife. He said he wants 5 more. And she said, "He wants 5 more? Give him 5 more." So I went, after church, went to his house that night and gave him 5 more. But I wasn't upset, so it wasn't as hard, but just kind of going through the motions. But he never touched her since then, and they're one of our main families in our church today. So it's kind of a funny, weird story. I don't recommend that style, but he's told people that story too, so, and I won't mention his name. But that was a situation. And so another thing, one of the, I guess, most amazing way a financial need was met. Well, I always wanted to go to Israel, and so, we just didn't have the money. And at that time, where my children were going, my daughter's at Pensacola Christian College. We had just bought a house. We're renovating it. We were just really strapped financially, but I really wanted to go to Israel, and so I ended up planning a trip, but I didn't have the funds. And so the person that planned it with me, he had said, I told him, I said, I don't think I can go. He said, "No, we're going already. We have to go. We got to trust the Lord and go." So I wanted to trust the Lord. I'm trusting the Lord, but the funds aren't coming in, and I got to pay. The deadline is upon us. So I did, what I didn't want to do. I felt kind of, a little bit dumb doing it, but I had to pay the money, so I ended up borrowing money. I just was borrowing money from people, and don't recommend doing that, but the deadline came up, so I just did that. And so I went on a trip, and it was the greatest trip I've ever been on. If you've never been to Israel, every day was exciting. I mean, I could hardly sleep at night. It was so awesome, and I've been there twice now, but that was the first time. And we're planning on going again. It's just this past trip, it was we couldn't go because of the COVID problem. Anyway, so went and did that. Now when I came back, I had to get paid all the money back, and someone came up to me and didn't know anything about the financial situation, and gave me a brown paper sack and said, "There's something in there for you." I opened it up and there was $10,000 in cash in the paper sack. So I was able to pay the money back and more so. In fact, after that, I received the trip cost about $4,500, $4,500 for everything, and I probably got like $12,000 like that. I felt like the Lord was just helping me to pay those, not just for the trip itself, but even some of the other financial obligations. And I'm not saying if you go to Israel it's going to happen, but that was a financial need that was a real blessing to me. Also, another way that a financial need was met was one day where, because of, the COVID situation, some people aren't coming to church. Some people have not come to church in over a year, or maybe not over a year, but almost a year. And I'm sure this happened everywhere, And so the giving was a little bit less. We were struggling with paying our rent. Our landlord came, and it was that day where I think I already shared this, on the other one. Anyway, scariest experiences on the field. One of the scariest experiences on the field or on the road. One day we were at a Bible study with a lot of people that were in our RAM program. We're sitting in a circle. And then I was teaching, and then one of the people that were in the program stood up. His phone rang, and he stood up and answered it and walked away. And I thought that was odd because this person wouldn't normally do that. If anything, they'd turn the phone off, or they would put on silence and not answer it. So I knew it was something serious, and I could tell by the look on his face that something was seriously wrong. Then he looked at me, and while I was teaching, and he motioned for me to come to talk to him on the side. And that was odd that I was teaching and he said to do that. But I knew it was important, so I ended up going over to where he was, stopped teaching, and he told me that someone just murdered his wife. And I'm like, "You're kidding me?" And he said, "Yeah." So we had to drop everything, and we rushed over to the hospital, and sure enough, he wanted me to go with him to identify his wife's body. And it was her that got murdered. It was an ex-boyfriend that was jealous that she was seeing him, but then she ended up wanting to get her life right, so she ended up going back with her husband, who was the person that we were working with, and he was upset and jealous, and so he followed her and hit her car. She got out. He pulled out a 30-30. He didn't shoot her with it. I don't know if it was jammed or what, and he just beat her with it. Just beat her up until she died. And that night, the guy I was with, he was wanting to end his life, and we were trying to just, encourage him best we could. It was just a difficult situation. And then he had a son, so we let his son stay with him in the program while he was with his son. Son was only about 2 years old, so that kind of kept him from killing himself. And then, but there was some people, because he was involved with different things, that was upset that the boy was with him in the program. Now, it's a program, but it's a Christian-based program, and so we just thought that was the best for him that night. But some people didn't agree that the boy should have been at the program with him, and so they called CPS. And then when CPS called him up because of that, trying to get the boy from him, he found out who's the one who alerted the CPS, and then now he wants to kill the person. And so I took him to, I found out what was going on. I took him to a restaurant to plead with him, to talk him out of doing it. He was going to leave the program and do it. And I was trying so hard to talk him out of doing that. And so he did do that, but he ended up leaving the program and going back on drugs and went back into jail and everything. But I remember that was a very difficult, scary time, I guess. When it said scary, I just thought about that situation. The individual, I'm not sure how he's doing. There's been times where he's come back to the program, back and forth, but I don't think he's still not doing all that great. But it's a difficult time. How God took care of you miraculously. I would say that there was a situation years ago in Hawaii. Everything is so expensive. I'm talking the average house right now in our area. And the problem here is, I know there's some places in cities where housing is expensive, but it's expensive everywhere on this island. You can't get off this island anywhere without it being expensive. And in the area I live, it's a very country, older houses, but the houses here, the average house is going to be between 800,000 and 900,000, and not exaggerating. You can Google that. The average house in Hawaii, I believe, is 800 something thousand. There might be some areas you can get cheaper than that, but you're still going to be looking at 650 to 700,000 for, we're talking just a regular 2 to 3 bedroom house, 2 bath, usually no yard. So everything is so expensive. We had an opportunity to buy property, and I just felt like the Lord opened the door for us to get it. Whether He did or not, I really felt strongly about it. So we took a second mortgage out on our house to put the down payment on the property. The problem is if we tried to get it, if we didn't get it, we'd lose that down payment. It was $40,000. And then also there's other things we had to do. We essentially it cost us probably close to $100,000. And in the church also, that was our money, and then the church put some money in also. And we tried to raise the money to get the property. We just worked hard, tried to do it, and we just were unable to. It didn't work out, so we lost all that money. But in doing that, that's how we started the RAM program, because we felt like we needed that property to have the space to house the people in our program, which we did. And then when we didn't get the property, we had to move out. Then God, met our needs, and we were able to still house them. So it's what started our RAM program, essentially. But we were out a lot of money between us and the church. It was about over $100,000, and so we had to take out a loan to kind of pay that. And financially, it was difficult. But the Lord had always allowed us our property value, or even the equity in our home, to go up. And then we were able to get we still were able to buy a house and get a bigger house as our family grew. And right now we have an older house, is built in 1969, but it has an acre of land, just like the place that you're looking at from that yard, from the yard and the view of the mountains. And so the Lord really blessed us, even though at the time it felt like, wow, we wasted all that money. But the Lord used that in order to help us to get the RAM program going, and it met our needs, and even align us, even though we lost all that money, that we weren't able to recover it. But the Lord allows us to recover it through different ways. And so He really blessed us in doing that. Another thing is, there's been a lot of people, when you do things in the ministry, people criticize. And in the RAM program, I have 5 children, 3 daughters and 2 sons. So some people have been criticized, just like, you know how it is, everything you try to do, people oppose or criticize, even believers in other churches. But so they're thinking that it was not a good idea for me to have my family so closely associated with those that are in RAM, that they're going to end up getting hurt. And understand, we have to have wisdom, and we got to protect our children. But I felt like the Lord really had blessed us in the area that all my daughters, which I was very concerned about, a lot of people were concerned, you know, in the situations that they were in at times. But the Lord protected them, and my oldest daughter married Jessica Ava, and he grew up in our church, and he's one of our, so he's soon to be ordained. He works with the youth, also runs our choir. We haven't been able to have our choir for a while because of COVID, but he also does our music, plays our music during the church services, and he's involved in the church. He's on staff, and like I said, he's soon to be ordained, works with the youth, and my daughter married him, and it was a blessing that she was able to marry, you know, a godly man. And then my other daughter, Kylie, my second daughter, married someone she met at Pensacola Christian College, and they're in Texas. I mean, I'd like for her to stay here, but she's in Texas, and the family that she married into, they're a godly family. They go to a good, solid independent Baptist church, and right now Kylie and her husband are teaching the Sunday school class, so that's a blessing. And my youngest daughter, Kimi Ann, she's about to be married. She's engaged, and the young man she's engaged to was in our Bible college that we pastor not far from our church. Him and I are close friends, and he started a Bible college, and I was helping with that, and I teach in the college. And it's a small college, just started, and he attended that and is surrendered to preach. He's a good preacher, and so my daughter is engaged to be married to him. So I feel like the Lord really protected them and allowed them to marry right. And I have two sons, and one of my sons is dating a girl that we really love, and I was able to lead her to Christ. And then my other son, he's still in high school. So the Lord blessed us and protected our family, and that was a blessing. The ministry we're in, yes, we work with people that come out of jail and they have, they have felonies and other things. But when you're working in a ministry, you're gonna have, it doesn't matter what kind of ministry it is, you're gonna have situations like that, and the Lord protects us and gives us wisdom in all that we do. And so it's been a blessing to serve the Lord and to see Him protect us. So hopefully I answered the questions, and if there's any other questions, you can call me. I believe I left my number in the email. Give me a call. We can talk story, and I'd like to encourage you in whatever way I can concerning missions and outreach or church planning. And if any of you become missionaries, I'd love to have you in our church. And we support missions. We support about 30 missionaries right now, and we are a church that was started because of missionary support. We're with BIMI. We've been with them for many years, almost 30 years coming up, and maybe about 2 or 3 years, a bit 30. So hope everything goes well with your class, and thank you for the interest and contacting me. Appreciate it. Sorry it took so long for me to get to you, but God bless. Aloha.